I don't know why OBS just freezes up. But I got a new toy, and I've been using it for quite some time, and I think that it'd be very awesome to cover it on the channel because it's a fun toy. It's a fun toy. The ART or ART Voice Channel or channel strip for voice. It is a microphone preamp that does have a built-in compressor, de-esser, expander slash gate, or it's an or, it's not slash, it's or. It does have EQ, a semi parametric EQ, I think. That's what it's worded. And then you also do have a bunch of other things on this that other features that I'm not using, like SPDIF, or there's also an XLR plug that's actually digital. Like, it's kind of crazy that you have all this on the thing. So let's switch over to it. So over here, all right, is the our voice channel. So let's just lower this down. All right, there we go. So this big hunk of metal is just ridiculous. And I kind of really hope that it focuses. I don't think it will, huh? So it's crazy. It's honestly crazy. And I didn't think that I was going to I didn't think I was going to spend the money to get something like this. Just strictly because I knew, right, that I knew in my mind that the DBX 286S was just going to be the one and only thing I'll ever need. But it actually pooped on me. Basically, the preamp section of it works, but everything else on it doesn't. So this whole thing's busted. And I can smell that it was burning. Yeah. Now, the one thing about the DBX that I have to say is that I got it used. So I don't think that this will happen to everybody's DBX, but I have read online that depending on how old the unit is, you could run into the issue that I did. So the symptoms are these LEDs will not light up, the preamp works, phantom power works, the 80 hertz pass filter works, but this doesn't anymore, the processing button, and that means that the compression, the de-esser, and everything doesn't work anymore. So even the output gain as well won't work because the processing is, in a sense, completely bypassed. So it's really sad. Now, the beauty of the DBX 286S is that it is a solid state microphone preamp. It's got simple controls that are actually very easy to dial in for most microphones. And it can power a 7B, right? I think I've been saying that all the time when I was doing these videos on hardware. Like if you can power a 7B, you can power anything. Basically. Very simplified. But now, the ART channel over here, right? The thing about it is that it can't. It can't power a 5B. This does require a little bit more power. So you do have to become reliant on using, what's it called? On using a FET or a cloud lifter. You will. So on the side here for the amplifier, which is just this knob, you will see the number here that says 40 dB. And 60 dB shows up on the, it shows up on the freaking M4. Yeah, it also shows up on the Yamaha mixer I have. I was just checking real quick. Like those two interfaces are they're both interfaces. They do support 60 dB, but here it doesn't. Okay, so that sucks. And I'm very sorry. The camera is just failing the autofocus for for some dumb reason. So it does suck. This will require an inline preamp. But okay, but, and this is the big but here, is like, why would that not be how can that not be a bad thing? Because everything else on this thing is amazing. So we'll get there. There's a pad, simple pad here. I don't know how much it attenuates. I think it's 20 dB. Yeah, it sounds like 20 dB. And then we do have an invert button. This is for if your microphone is phased. Now, in some cases, this can sound better. In other cases, it will sound worse. So this is just to your discretion, I guess. Which one sounds better? The inverted sound or the uninverted sound? Okay. Now we have the phantom power button, and we also have the low cut filter. So I am using this low cut filter, but what's really beautiful is that if I turn it off, you'll be able to hear that when it's on, it is very, very subtle. And then there's the phantom power button, which I have right now for the 5B because I am using a Fed head. There's also this impedance knob. Now, I matched the impedance with the microphone, and I don't know if that's what you necessarily need to do. The microphones that I use are all at 150 impedance, so I just left it at 150 impedance. But if you do drive it just a little bit more, it does. You can hear that. It gets louder. Now, this knob is noisy as hell, and I wonder if it's because of my unit. So I kind of want to talk about that. I hope it's not. I hope. But that impedance knob is freaking noisy. Okay. Now, this knob, this gain knob, I have cranked all the way to 3 o'clock. Now, you can go just a little bit harder, but 3 o'clock wasn't perfect for this, for the 5B. Okay, and that's it. That's like basically the pre-amplifier side of things. Okay, so it's kind of nice. It's really nice to have these, have all these options and stuff. And now we go into the compressor side of things. Okay, so the compressor side, we have the noise reduction up here. Okay, noise reduction. We have a threshold, the ratio, the de-esser, an attack, release, and a de-esser frequency. So unlike the DBX, where, let's talk about the de-esser first. Or no, let's talk about the compressor first. So the compressor on the DBX, there's only two that controls the threshold, the ratio, the release, and attack together, right? So now they simplify it. And here you have the actual options. Now what's really cool is that the attack, I had to check it. It can go as low as 0.25. Okay, that's actually like as low as it can go on this, which is pretty freaking fast. Pretty fast for an analog compressor, especially the fact that this is tubed. So that's quick. Okay, the threshold here you can set for when the compression happens. You also have the ratio here. I wanted 6:1. That's what I use because like I am very bad at dynamics. Okay. And we also have here the de-esser and now the de-esser frequency. So on the DBX, where basically you set the frequency when it starts to happen and then how much is lowered, this I think is more like when you're at that frequency. Like this is more specific. So it's not like once it reaches 4K, you know, detenuate or attenuation, you're gonna lower it down by a certain amount of dB. We're looking only, I believe, at 4K and then like a little bit of a hump, basically. So that's the difference here. So you do have to dial this in depending on the voice and the microphone and everything like that, and then the amount that you're going to be compressing that frequency in a sense. So that's the compressor side. Very useful, very amazing. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit real quick. So when I'm talking, okay, and then I start to scream like, ah, woo, you see that this reduction will go. Now the beauty of this, okay, is that this is far away from any other meter. It's only here on the compressor side, and it goes from right to left. So it makes a lot of sense. Beautiful. Okay. I love it. Love it. Now the gate. So the gate and also the expander threshold and controls. Okay. So the expander is just a lot better for voice. If we do use the gate, you have to beat the gate. And what sucks is the gate is very aggressive. So as you can see, I was getting cut off. We have to set the gate settings here with the threshold different, but I don't want to touch it because it works with my expander at the moment. So the expander is a lot more slower and it's a lot more natural for the voice. And I really love that. So the expander is super simple. You just have a threshold and that's it. But is that good? It's not. You don't have any other means to change the attack and the knee or whatever. Especially for the gate, that could have been very useful to make it a lot more smoother. Especially like the pre-look ahead and all that kind of extra stuff. But since we only have these two controls, the expander's a lot more viable. We now have the 2 voltage thing here, and I always have this on high. Now, you can hear a difference when this is off and when this is on. And basically, if you wait a few minutes when the tube is warmed up and you have this button on, and you wait a few minutes for the tube to really go into the high voltage state, you can get a lot more warmth and harmonics and stuff coming out of this thing, which I think is beautiful. It's beautiful. So I love how you have this option. If you don't want to burn your bulb, have this on normal, which is off. And if you want this to burn like the sun and to give you some really interesting coloration, at least you have the option to do so. Next on this side is the EQ. Now the EQ is amazing. Okay. There's a lot of overlap from reviews and also from videos I've watched for setup here. There's lots of overlap between the mid 1 and mid 2 dials. And then the low and the high are very specific frequencies. For the low, we only have 100, or no, we only have 50 hertz and then 150 hertz. Okay, that's all we have. And then we have like a little bit, we have quite a bit of control here, negative 12 or 12 dB, that we can boost or cut. So I cut a little bit at around 50 hertz. Now for mid 2, okay, this is useful for finding those nasal frequencies. I would say the most would be nasal frequencies. And as you can see, I found mine around 271 hertz is typically where mine horrible sounds are for my voice. So I can remove that. I removed a little bit. And over here, mid 2, they kind of overlap. As you can see, this can go into the range of mid 2, but up to only 3K. And then mid 2 can go up into the range of the high frequency dial, but only up to 15K, which is the max of the high dial. So it's kind of cool how these all mix together and they can help to make a smooth transition or sound when EQing. So I found 500 hertz. There's something wrong with the room or with the microphone. So I removed a little bit of those frequencies. And then for the high frequencies, you can choose the boost at 15 kilohertz, especially for dynamic microphones that can be useful. But I chose the latter. I chose to just cut a little bit of it off, since this microphone typically is already very bright. And what's really cool is that this does have the ability for you to actually activate the EQ before or after. And if you know the technique to be able to find the frequencies a lot more easier that are kind of annoying, you put this under active or well, what's it called? The EQ bypass. Whoops, I put that wrong. It's this one, the position. I'm so stupid. The EQ position here can be either post compressor or pre compressor. So if we have this on, it's now going to be before the compression. And basically, with the compressor on, we'll be able to actually hear the frequencies a lot more easier. Okay, based off of watching the compressor work and pump. And then for the post compression, that we'll have this off, so that we have the EQ that we had set up. And then this bypass thing, you just have it off completely, or you can have it on. That's what that was. I was so stupid. And then to the right, I think my two favorite things is that we do have a VU meter here, and we do have a digital meter, which will be a peak RMS peak meter, I think. I think so. It's kind of cool. So I can rely on this if I want to, but I can also look at VUs, which is just a lot more useful. And we do have an output level over here, output dial. And then we also do have another dial up here for digital out. So for digital out, there's a bunch of frequency or sample rates and bit rates and also clock speeds and stuff that you can set up here. You can have the internal clock working or the external clock of what you're plugging into work instead. So there's a lot of options, I think, that are beyond me at the moment that are on this thing. So it's crazy. It is crazy. Now, what can I say since buying it? Like what has happened since? Nothing bad. I think just everything good. I honestly really love how how it works. I love how simple it is, and I also love how it's like it feels like it's fine-tuned for the voice, which sounds kind of odd to say, I think, because you would think that every piece of equipment is fine-tuned to the voice, which in some cases it isn't. It's maybe fine-tuned to a specific voice, but it sounds like from the way that you can tune your microphone and your voice with the ARTT Voice Channel, there's a wide variety of voices that can be on this that can be changed. Now, two things I think that people would care about the most here is that there's two means of input and output. Let's just put it that way, okay? So we do have combo jacks on the backside and at the front of the unit, and then we also do have XLR balanced out, or we do have 1/4 inch balanced out. So it was amazing. I was able to utilize the Mogami cable that I bought that I didn't mean to. And now we have XLR balanced out that goes into the channel on the Yamaha mixer. And that's it. That's it. So I'm very happy with the unit. I'm happy with how it sounds, especially on the 5B. It starts to sound very crisp. And that expander is very, very smooth. Of course, my room is not the best. It's noisy as hell. And I bet you there will be other people that have probably worse conditions than I do, or even better conditions, in which case this can really shine the most, I think. So yeah, that's really all I gotta say about it, is that I love how it sounds. It performs very, very well. It's expensive. It's double the price of the DBX. But is it worth double the price? Honestly, it's going to be so dependent on what microphone you're using. Like, I feel like this scales very well with good microphones. And typically, good microphones scale very well with whatever they're plugged into. So, I think that having these controls on hand are useful. I remember doing like a little paper for university talking about plugins and just how, the reason why hardware is becoming obsolete is because we have them as a plugin now. But why hasn't hardware actually become extinct? It's because plugins cannot completely replace certain hardware. And it's not because of the sound. It's not an audiophile or hardware like old school view like elitism. It's just that not everybody has a strong CPU. So we can use VST host programs like Cantabile or whatever else, like VST host. I think that's literally what it's named. And OBS also has VST capabilities. Now, the difficulty with this is that even if we wanted to use plugins, if the computer is not strong enough, if you don't have enough RAM, you're not going to be able to do it. So hardware can really help, especially someone who's aspiring to do anything with upgrading sound at home. A channel strip is your best friend. The DBX 286S is perfect for the price point, especially if you get it used. But mine failed on me, so just know that you can get luckier. You can. I've always had issues with it where sometimes the amplifier would actually go into that noisy state that it is now, but it would disappear if I yell into the microphone. So I think it was already on its last legs. That thing was already happening to the DBX, but this ARTT Voice Channel, the only thing that I have to replace on it is the tube, but that's going to be after like 7 or 10 years. So tube powered, we have basically the only controls that you actually care about. Plus, on top of that, even though it can't power a 7B, which means it can't power my 5B, it scales well with the Fed head, and also I would assume the cloud lifter. And I would even say too, because of the positioning where it is at 3 o'clock, it's not going to be as noisy as when it's not driven. So that's really all I got to say about it. I hope that this was helpful. If people want to buy one, setup is easy. Plugging it in is amazing, but of course you have to deal with the issues of hardware, and that is it takes a lot of space. So my desk is looking a little bit full. It's looking a little spicy. There's a mixer, there's 2 microphone preamps, and a compressor, and or like effects chain, or not really effects chain, but it's a channel strip that's separated from the actual amp because it's the Behringer Composer. And then my headphone amplifiers and the Motum 4 is all on my desk. So you run into the issue of running out of space, but you will not run into the issue of not having good sound. So I think the trade-off is, do you want good sound, or do you want to invest in a better CPU, which like right now those are really hard to come by, uh, to be able to run plugins that especially for my case right now with the Motu 4 or M4, it's just the drivers is not working out for me. So thanks for watching the video. I hope this was helpful. I love the unit. Wish that it could just power the freaking 7B without having to buy or use a fathead, but luckily I already had one. But yeah, take care, be safe. Yeah, I think that's all that she wrote.